Hey Svetlana,
Hello, Arnie.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well too. There's a lot to do. It's busy weeks, busy months. You wouldn't believe what is going on here, but I'm very happy. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying
Mhm.
like it's much more time for work, and I'm very glad that I can have this opportunity to get the curve around that again. So, talking about learning and working, what kind of smart moves do you have on the tableau today?
Well, a bit different today,
Oh,
but
it's not
first things
chess.
first, I wanted to ask you, who is your favorite world champion?
Oh boy. That
Why
can
does
you
that throw
believe
you off guard so much? I
I do
mean,
not know it. I'm like, first of all, I am stunned that I have never asked this question myself, or nobody ever asked me this question.
what? How can you, how can no one ever ask you
Exactly.
this?
Yeah, I'm asking this question to a lot of people when I'm interviewing them, but nobody ever asked me. So, who's my favorite world champion? Now I have to think. I I I I don't know. I don't have any. Let's say it like that. I do
Hmm,
not have any favorite world champion. I no. Yeah, that's my
no.
answer. Deal with it.
Okay.
Who's your favorite?
Well, if I could only pick one, I think it would be Garry Kasparov.
Okay,
So
fair,
the
fair
typical
enough.
answer.
No,
I'm sure he's he's a lot of people's favorites.
in
He's
he's a S tier list for a lot of
of
world
course
champions.
he's
Yeah,
one of the best attacking players in the world. So, in history, I should say. So, today, I've collected some of my favorite games by him.
oh,
And
nice.
of course, they're going to be mostly brilliant attacks. So, you're going to have a good tactics workout today.
Excellent.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
this is
so
great. I'm looking very forward to that. I love tactics. I love attacking. And I can already see there's Garry Kasparov versus Veselin Topalov.
yeah.
So
Are you familiar with that
if
game? Does
if
that
you
ring a
if you
bell?
would have asked me what is your favorite game of all time,
Uh-huh.
well, that would be my answer. I think that is one
Okay.
of the coolest games. It was also some nostalgia for me. I looked at it in the chess magazine, which was had this it's just called chess or Schach in Germany, and it
Hmm.
just had this big part of this attacking game against Veselin Topov, and it was like 12 pages of full analysis about all of this and how
Do you
brilliant it
remember it
was.
by heart?
By heart, not, but I remember how it
Okay.
worked and all of that. So I can. It's like this thing. It's like this kind of game, which every couple of years you have to look at it again, like a good book,
Mhm.
like a good movie. That's how I see it.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so then maybe we can't exactly play guess the move because you're gonna you're gonna know some of them, but I'll try to pick some moments which are somewhere deeper in the variations so that you might not remember them. But
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that can very well happen. And in the end, there might be one or two or 3,000 people who haven't seen that game yet, and and
Right,
that's for
and
you.
well, actually we can even see how many of the moves you do remember and
Yeah, let's go for that. Okay.
yeah. Okay, yeah, well, this is a game that we're gonna look at. It's probably one of the most famous games. I don't know if I can say, but it's Garry Kasparov's most famous game, or if it's just the most
I
famous
I
game
think
because
it's
it's
considered in the absolute top most famous games of all time. So there are people who might argue it's the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
yeah.
And there's another one which comes to mind for me, which is the game by Anderson, the
Hmm.
Immortal, as far as I know.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's something which is coming close to. It's very unbelievable that this game ever happened, but it seemed to have happened. And yeah, and in this game, Anderson has three minor pieces, I think, against all the other pieces almost, and checkmates the opponent. So
Oh
yeah, that's
wow.
very insane as well. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
from the 19th
Hmm.
century as far as I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is just it's the game
It's
of the
the game.
20th
Yeah.
century, I would say. Yeah,
So a lot of people might already be familiar with it, but still, it's like a good movie. Like you have to watch it every once in a while.
absolutely.
So yeah, Garry Kasparov was playing against Veselin Topalov, who was also a former FIDE world
Yeah,
champion. And it all begins with e4, d6. So already
that's
a
already
surprise
weird.
on
Yeah.
move one, right? Topalov is usually a Sicilian player, but he decided to go into something unexpected to avoid Kasparov's preparation.
Mhm.
And so this is why you don't see this opening a lot at the top level.
There's a name for it. Is it Mises opening?
I would call it just the perk.
Is it? Ah, it's just a perk. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
You can you can also go into some sort of modern, modern is e4 g6. So
Yes.
this could transpose from the modern too, but I guess the official way it started, it's the
It's
perk
definitely a
defense.
perk. Yeah. I just had like
Yeah.
my mind was spinning around some other opening. I think it was the other way around. D3 was probably the for white. It was the other way around. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that happened. I like to play against perk. By the way, I enjoy
Hmm.
that. It's nice to
As
attack.
white.
Yeah, as white.
Hmm. Yeah, I like such openings like the perk or the modern you. Probably it seems easy to play because you just have like a huge center right away, and
Yeah.
it seems like you can do anything and not be in trouble. But it's not always true. I would say
Unfortunately, yeah.
it's trickier than people think. But yeah, I do agree that there's a lot of systems which you don't have to know really much in, and you can like you're not really risking being worse unless you play something like completely random, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, but of course to get a big advantage and like to get a sizable advantage, you would probably have to know quite a bit of theory to actually prove that you're way better in this position.
Sure.
So yeah, we continue with bishop e3. So that's just one of the central setups that he went for. Bishop g7, queen d2. So one of the ways to play against such openings, either the perk or the modern, because this looks similar to it too. Although in the modern, you don't put the knight on f6 right away.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of the difference.
How
Um,
if you play fianchetto as well, quite often, right? Like the bishop to g7, if there's like a d4 opening or something, right?
well, yeah, I can play that sometimes. I've
Mm.
played the modern before. I've played the King's Indian, but this is not really
So,
like.
so my question about it is, how much do you fear if the bishop goes to h6, which is sometimes a way to play against this opening with the queen behind it, just like in this setup here?
Mhm.
Is this something where you go like, oh, I hate it when this happens, like pinning a knight or something, or are you like, oh, this is great that this is happening now? I'm castling and I'm safe.
Well, see, one of the ideas of the modern is when like not like this is when the knight is still on g8,
Hmm.
is that you don't bring out your knight because the knight on g8 protects h6. So
Yes.
you keep it there for a bit until you figure out what white is doing, and the knight there can help prevent that idea.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not usually scary unless there's some attack happening, because if you're going to do that, you're going to have to also protect the g4 square. And well, what we're going to see actually in this game is that the bishop does come to h6.
Yes. I mean, this is my tiny anecdote about this. This influenced me so much, this game, that I always love to play the bishop to h6 whenever possible if
Oh.
there is a fianchetto, and just push after with h4 normally to get a
Mhm,
bit more scary, and yeah, have some good results with it. That
mhm.
to that part. This is why I even mentioned it.
Oh, it does look scary. Actually, sometimes I think the best reputation is the c6 line rather than
Uh-huh.
bishop g7. And then you go for something like that, and well, you play e5 or
And you wait
It's
as
similar
long as
plans, but you don't
possible.
bring the bishop yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's I think that's the line that has a slightly better score than bishop g7, but it's still we're still in the opening. It's
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry. I mean we're already like almost 10 minutes in and we're just in the first couple of moves. It's my fault. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll
No.
shut up now and let you talk a little bit.
Oh, no, all good. So yeah, White has a lot of possibilities here. He decided to go for knight g to e2. He could have played many other things, but his main idea is, of course, to castle long and hopefully start an attack on the king side if Black actually goes for short castling. And here goes your bishop h6 move. It's here, and Black takes it. So the reason why
Crazy.
the reason why Black isn't exactly scared of this queen on h6 preventing him from castling is because he was not planning to castle there anyway. He wants to castle on the long side, and he's not really worried about the queen being on h6.
What a mistake.
Because
It's
if he
not a
was
mistake, I know.
castling short, I guess it would be a bit concerning with g4 and h4 and things like that. So especially against such a great attacker as Kasparov, you
Yeah. If
want
that
to castle on the
happens,
same side.
if that happens, you know, now I'm in trouble. That's not good.
But so is Topalov. He's or
True.
Topalov, should I say? He is also a really great tactician. So don't think he was particularly scared because
You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
he is also.
I mean, after all, you have to give him just this huge amount of credit that he went into this
Of course,
variation.
yeah. I
After
think
all, I love
masterpieces like this are made like by both players.
Yeah,
It's because
true.
the opponent also didn't pick some boring
Yeah.
line, didn't actually allowed this combinations to happen. Okay, so we are back. Yeah, we're back to the game. Bishop went to b7, so Topalov is preparing his long castle. a3, so this is a prophylactic move. One of Black's ideas was to play b4 at some point, and if he hadn't played it and let's say castled right away, there would have been queen a5, and that kind of increases Black's chances of counterplay. And a3 needs to be played anyway, I think, because or else b4 will show up. So a3, we're not committing to anything just yet. So now Topalov plays e5. So he went for the play in the center, which is very typical for this opening. And just to say, if he goes for an attack on the queen side like this, which seems logical if White is going to castle there, but the problem is White doesn't have to castle yet. And he can take some time to do some maneuvers, like maybe even knight d1, knight g3. And at the end of the day, you start to wonder, are these pawns even really doing much there? The king isn't there, so they're not really opening up much and just making weaknesses right now. So this is why he decided to just go for the center right away. And here now White finally did castle long. So queen e7 followed. Of course, Black is preparing to castle long. To castle long here. White played king b1, which is another prophylactic move, typical for the Sicilian, actually. Yeah. Do you know what usually the idea of this king b1 move is?
Well, that's how I learned it, that people even mention it, that a long castling is actually only a long castling once the king also moved this step aside to protect the A file and to give more space and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a move that is a very natural and often played move after a long castling.
Right. You want to, in the Sicilian, it's usually about something about this diagonal. You don't want any checks coming this way.
Okay.
So yeah, this is, I mean, I see it so often in the Sicilian. So so usually it's just to make sure the king doesn't get checked. And of course, he's just a bit safer here than on c1. But there's another idea to it, which we will see on the next move, which you can maybe even guess on the next move. So a6 followed up. So this is just to defend b5 in case White ever wanted to play d5 just to defend the pawn and be safe here. So this is, I think, the first interesting moment. You're
Okay.
almost fully developed. So what plan would you come up with? You might remember it, but
Yeah, I
you
don't
don't?
remember it. No.
Okay, great. So guess the move Kasparov played.
So,
Actually, I'm gonna keep track of how many moves you guessed.
oh boy. All right. Okay, good. So let's see. Thank you for the un for this
And
beautiful
I mean, if
pressure.
we are going to play guess the move, the viewers can play too and see how many they got
I
right
like
throughout
that.
the game.
That's a great idea. Okay, perfect. I wonder how many know this game absolutely. Do you know this game by heart? Would you know how many would you know all the moves?
Me, I wouldn't. No,
Mm.
I don't review it, every morning or every night before sleep. But
Like a little
um,
Bible.
after I've seen it like once in a while, maybe I would, like, if you ask me shortly after I saw it, I might be able to recall it, but definitely not all of the variations.
Mhm.
That's there's a lot of tactics here hidden inside all of these sub variations. Well, anyway,
Indeed, yeah.
what's the plan here?
I don't have a big plan except opening the line for my rook on d1. I mean, I would have other plans. I probably also think of g3, getting the bishop to h3 maybe, which is a bit unconventional, bit unusual maybe. But of course, at the moment, my bishop is one of the weaker pieces and doesn't really have that much of a purpose. But I think it hasn't been played, so I think yeah, I think
You think the move
taking on
is
e5 is good, and maybe getting the knight to g3 is another plan. Yeah, I would take the pawn.
okay, and you did not guess the move, so
Terrible.
big zero for you. But no, it's not. The move itself is not. It's not that obvious. So I don't think there's anything too wrong with taking, but you're kind of opening up the D file. Well, you're opening it up for yourself, but also for the opponent. And I wouldn't really think that black has any trouble in the center.
Yeah,
I would maybe even prefer to keep these pawns because you might have some D5 ideas later.
yeah.
So the fact that you're trading the pawns kind of gives black a bit more space than you can. Um, so the move that Kasparov played was knight c1, and the idea is that the knight is going to b3 and then to a5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The knight
yeah,
went from the center right to the edge of the board, but it's really strong at that edge of the board because that's where the black king is,
yeah.
and the
And
knight is
now I
gonna play.
remember it, of course, too. So
Of
yeah,
course. Yeah, it's going to play a very important role now. So, and that's one of the other ideas that I didn't reveal of King B1 is that you can
nice
sometimes do that to free the space for your knight.
for other pieces. Yeah, like the
Mhm.
knight. Yeah, yeah,
So,
nice.
knight C1 was a good positional
And Veselin
maneuver.
goes like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Show
he
me.
goes castling. He castles long. Well, not. It's not like he had a choice to castle short,
Yeah.
but yeah, castling long. So far, the position is all fine. Um, it's not like one side is too much better. So now Veselin opens up the center with e takes d4. Because if he doesn't do that, then probably knight a5 and some, like I mentioned, d5 could have followed, and that would have been a bit unpleasant, and the pieces would have been a bit cramped. So he opens up the center. Rook takes on d4, c5, attacking the rook, and the rook came back. And here Topalov plays knight b6. So the idea is to play d5, and that is a pretty good idea and pretty hard for white to deal with, because once black does that, then he has zero opening problems. All of his pieces are active.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I would be worried about white's pieces, who are not really doing much just yet. So here I think was the first time when Kasparov took a long think, and he made his next move, which I think you're gonna guess this time because you remember the idea. but what do you think it is? You've mentioned it already, so that's why I think you'll remember.
I did.
Yeah,
Was
you've
it
mentioned
was it
it before.
G3?
It is G3.
Oh,
So you got this one. You get a point for guessing this one, right?
well, you gave me a little bit of a hint, I have to admit that. But I'm actually surprised because I didn't remember that move. I just thought
Mhm.
like
Oh, you
logically
didn't.
earlier,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you said that because you like remember
No,
that that's.
no, this is really
Oh,
funny. So maybe I remember it unconsciously. That can very well be.
maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens when you look at a lot of the classics, and this is why it's important to look at a lot of classics, is because it's gonna stay in your head. You know,
Remember
it's
this.
even though you
What?
don't know it.
Yes. What an important lesson this is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is probably a little example of how this can work.
Right, right. And maybe you have like a completely different position, but somehow you
Mhm.
think, I don't know, my bishop on f1 is not doing great. And then you remember that
That
there's
might
also
be
this
an
idea and
option to get it out. Yeah.
yeah, so g3. It's not a very obvious move, but it makes perfect sense once you see it. So the bishop is coming to h3, where it's of course a lot better than just staying here and not being able to come out. And the rest of the plan is to play knight a5. That's where the knight went to in the first place. Then the queen goes to f4 to just be more active, and probably the rook is going to come in the center. And that's how that's basically the plan of development for white. It was not really possible to prevent d5, and I think Veselin could have played d5 here. And I think maybe the reason why he didn't, although I'm pretty sure he would have seen all the tactics, but there is one moment which looks a bit unpleasant here, is that he has to, here after this queen f4 check, he has to find the only move, king a7,
Okay.
and not make any, you can't cover with anything, you can't, because of e5, you can't play king a8 because of this nice tactic, knight c5. Do you see the difference? You probably don't see the difference yet, but there is a difference between king a7 and king a8. So here, knight c5, you can't take because queen takes on
Okay. Now,
f4,
now I finally understand
f6, I mean.
why. Yeah.
So knight h5 is the follow-up. And now queen e3, he can come back and defend it. And d4 doesn't work because
That'll be
this goes with check.
discovered.
And if the king was on a7, then
No check.
black is winning.
Nice.
Then black was winning instead in this position.
My gosh.
So knight c5 would not have worked. So that's the little detail about king a7, which I think he saw, but maybe it was just an unpleasant position visually. But it's probably would have been pretty unclear, pretty equal. But still. He played king b8 instead. So also just making sure that the king is out of trouble before playing d5, because d5 is gonna happen anyway. So now the next move is knight a5. That's what we were expecting all along. Bishop goes to a8. Of course, black doesn't want to make those trades of a bishop for that knight. And d5 finally came through. So I'll say the next few moves, but we're slowly getting to the famous moment of this game.
It is funny that you mentioned this because it's the first couple of times, as I say, every couple of years I take a look at this game, and every time I'm like wondering, like, when is it happening? Shouldn't
When
this
does it
happen like earlier and
Yeah.
stuff like this? It builds up. It builds up a long time until the action really
Right,
gets
right.
going. But it's always like funny how I remember it a bit differently.
Yeah, but a lot of these moves are forced though. So
Yeah.
this is a check. So the king has to go to a7. So now rook h to e1. If you notice, all of the pieces here are in their ideal spots. And Kasparov was already, I think, calculating the big combination that he was getting ready for. But objectively, this exact position is not winning, not even better for white. So black should be doing totally fine. But of course, it's really hard to calculate the entire thing when you don't have an engine by your side.
Sure.
So we're getting to that point. Next, Topalov played d4, and your next guess the move is, where should the knight go?
Ooh. Well, why is this so difficult? I don't think it was on A2. I mean, it looks quite tempting to put it to go to D5, and of course it's discovered when you take back, but maybe it is.
So is your guess knight
Is this your
d5?
final answer?
Is this your final
Can
answer?
I
Are you sure?
call
Maybe
a
you want to call a
telephone?
friend to
Yeah,
confirm.
Frederick. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm guessing knight to d5, but actually it cannot be. I don't think it is. Damn it! I'm saying it. Knight
Yeah,
to d5.
and you're right. You got it right. It is knight d5, and even just visually, it's probably in bullet or in blitz. You just play that immediately, and
Yeah, I
you
guess.
don't calculate it. But no, here there was some calculation. So the interesting thing that I found here is that the engine prefers knight a2 by far, and like this is like the top choice. And apparently, the idea of knight a2 is that you play b4, and you block things up here a bit, and then you play knight c1. And I'm not sure where this knight is going, but he's, I guess, doing a good defensive
H8.
job. And it's yeah, so this apparently not too bad for white, should be fine, but I don't know, these look like a bit of insane moves for a human, you know, to retreat knight a2, to play b4, and to do all of these maneuvers. So I would not be surprised. I mean, knight d5 I think is very, very natural. Knight e2 is not that great, and again, I don't know what to do next for white here. The knight is doing nothing.
Be right, no.
Yeah, so it's, of course, it's knight d5. So now white's black's only capture is knight b to d5. Of course, recaptures and queen here. So the reason why you couldn't have captured with the other knight is, well, just imagine this knight is here, is that now f7 would be hanging. So this is why
of course,
the other knight was important. And we are at the big moment, so I think you know the move.
Well, if I remember it correctly, if you say that's the big moment, I thought there were even
this is the big moment.
One or two more moves in between, but
this is.
Isn't it rook to e7 check?
No,
it's not. It's rook takes d4.
It's rook takes d4, but I'll count it for you, because I think you found the half of the idea, basically.
Too kind, thank you. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, this is the combination that made history, and this is why this is how it starts. Rook d4. So
what do engines actually say when this move is played?
I think what I told you, the engines don't really like knight d5.
Yeah.
But at this point, black does have a defense. So
yes, that was
it's not
the point, right? Yeah.
Winning. It's not winning for sure. It's not already like +10 or anything. No, it's not like that, because, well, you're gonna see white is giving up quite a bit of material, and it's not gonna be clear. There's many points where it's still not clear.
Gotcha.
So in this exact moment, black has a defense, which you can actually try to find. What do you think was black's way to defend?
I believe it's not taking back is one of the ways to defend it. And how did that work again?
So you're right. In the game, c takes d4 happened.
Yes.
And that allowed for all of the beautiful combinations, but it's not the best defense.
Is it? Oh, I wouldn't know what the best defense is. Maybe rook h to e8. I don't know.
No, it's not rook h to e8.
Last idea I had was, but that doesn't look like a defense is taking on d5 with the knight or so.
That I think bishop takes is possible, but it's not great either. So the move is king b6.
Oh.
The point is that you're attacking the knight, and you're also making sure that there's never queen f7 with check. So it's all right. It's a very It's a very interesting move, but it ruins most of White's ideas if you think about it. But it's kind of, I think it's a psychologically a bit of a tough move to play because, well, White just captured your pawn on d4,
Yeah.
and by doing this, you're kind of admitting that, okay, have your pawn. I missed this. Good, good for you for finding
I
it.
knew this would happen.
But this is why I think it's a bit difficult to play that.
True.
You kind of want to punish your opponent for making this sacrifice.
This troll move. Yeah.
But now probably b4 happens, and well, White is not winning. Still a lot of pieces are hanging, but likely would just somehow end in a draw, maybe some queen trade, and Black regains the pawn, and I think a draw would be the most likely result here.
Mm-hmm.
So king b6 was the best defense. Bishop d5 is met with rook d5, so this does not really work. Something like that, and it's well, maybe actually no. I think it would be fine. I am pretty sure that this line seems quite fine to me. It's not. It wouldn't be such a clear-cut win, and I don't even think that White is that much better. But Bishop d5, I think, was one of the other defensive moves. But of course, what we are going to look at is c takes d4.
Yeah, committing to that. Yeah, that's nice.
One more thing is, though, like if there is a queen trade, so the reason why Topalov didn't want to go for this is because I guess because of this endgame. And even though it is technically equal, but I mean, going to an endgame down a pawn definitely doesn't look pleasant, and
no.
I wouldn't even suspect that it's that easy to hold for.
The question is if there isn't even another pawn falling pretty soon.
Exactly. Yeah, there might be some complications to hold that endgame. But c takes d4 is the move, and well, next one, I think you're gonna get it.
I think it's a check on d4.
I thought you remembered this game.
So it is the check on e7 first, right?
It is the check on e7.
Because it has to be, otherwise the queen could go in between to b6. That was my full thought. So of course it is.
Of course it's rook e7. So that's the big move here, the real point of the combination. And of course it gets 2 exclamation marks, and that's. The beauty of this line is that you're sacrificing a second rook in a row to make sure you attack the Black king. So you're right. Queen d4 wasn't working because of queen b6. So now the queen cannot take it because of this very nice checkmate, and knight c6 next move is going to give a checkmate. This bishop is doing a nice job. He's just sneaky here on h3, but it's important. Yeah, so queen e7 was out of question, so Black cannot capture that rook. Retreating is a bit more passive, and there's still a winning line here for White, but it is a bit crazy, a bit complicated. Something like this, I'm not sure if any of them saw this. I think they have, but yeah. So king b8 is just a bit more passive. So of course king b6 was the expected move, and that's what keeps the combination going. So
now we have the queen taking.
Now D4. We have the queen taking on d4. King a5. Does this remind you of any king walk by any chance?
Yeah. White has.
I actually don't know which game came first. I think probably this one. I think this one was first.
Are you sure?
I think so. I'm not sure about the other game, but I think I've heard that while Kasparov, because I did see some of the both players' comments on and their impressions of the game, and Kasparov said that he was thinking about another king walk game. I'm not sure if it was Larsen or Lasker, but
wow.
I have a memory that he was thinking of some other immortal game, which was also involved a king walk. So those were his actual thoughts during the game. I find it really interesting to to actually read all of like what the players themselves thought about it, and it helps understand a bit where they got their ideas from.
So yeah, I just checked meanwhile also online. So the King Walk was 1991,
Ah,
and yeah, this game Kasparov Topalov is from 1999, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
So
the short game was first.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yes.
Okay. But what I'm saying is I'm not sure if short was the one who invented it, you know? It's
That's absolutely yes. I caught that. Yeah, yeah. You're right with that, of course. Yes.
yeah, but
But
it's
his
the famous
game
game,
was
but
the one. Yeah, and I didn't even know about it. And yeah, I remembered it when we had the King Walk. The link is below, of course, right? Svitlana has also been analyzing the game with the King Walk. It's in one of the earlier episodes. If you're interested in this, it's worth taking a look at too.
mhm. Yeah, I'm surprised the king walk comes up a lot in our in our lessons somehow.
Constantly, yeah.
It's not a common topic at all. But yeah, so we have another king walk here with the king on a4, and this king is going to be in a lot of trouble there. So all it takes for white now is to get his queen onto b3,
Yes.
and that would win. But it's not
Yes.
that simple to do just yet. What do you think the move is here? Just try to guess it. It's don't even bother calculating. It's hard.
Yeah, I wish I would remember it, but I think it was. I mean, the simple guess was queen to b2, but I think it didn't work for some reason. I think a king move had to be there before. But it's not king a2 because the pawn on d5 is too
Yeah.
vulnerable. Maybe it's just queen to c3.
And you guessed it right. Well, you guessed Kasparov's move right. It's not the best move in the position, but you guessed his move right. The best move is rook a7.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It was a simpler and even could say even more beautiful win, but I mean all of the variations are really nice here. And the point is this.
And
And
there is no defense.
checkmate is unavoidable.
It's so cool,
Black
yeah.
can give up as many pieces as he wants, but the checkmate is gonna show up there eventually. So this was a bit of a simpler win. Not simple at all, but just simpler than what Kasparov played. Queen c3, but I think it makes sense. This queen c3 move, you're threatening checkmate. You're doing everything as you're supposed to. Rook a7. So now it's also worth it to be careful for black. So he found the only defensive move, bishop b7.
Yeah.
If he plays something like rook d6, I think is there just king b2? I think there's just king b2.
Yep.
And you can't really do anything
There
about the
is-
checkmate. You can do
yes,
this, but I'll take the queen and give another checkmate. So only move to defend is bishop b7. What's your next guess of a move?
Now the king goes to b2.
No, it doesn't. Not yet.
Because, yeah, Arnie, relax. There is queen d4. Let's not forget about that. Okay, I think the rook just took the bishop on b7, right?
That's what happened.
yeah.
You got it. You got it. So rook b7. We're getting rid of that
Rook a6
defender.
was a suggestion? Wow. Why?
a6. Oh, it might have been a suggestion, but I'm not sure how good that really is.
Oh, it's the queen to c7. Oh no, it's not a check. No, is it? Is it avoidable? Queen to c7.
Okay, so I think what it shows here is sometimes like these little squares that light up. It's usually the engine's like instinct, but it doesn't mean that it's the absolute best move.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that rook b7 is fine, but rook a6. Let's see. I actually don't think you can have a win here. You want queen here?
Yeah.
What if I just keep checking you?
Is that possible? King to a2?
Well, I'm gonna go back.
Oh, there's another check.
Yeah.
Oh, the computer is happy with the draw.
I think. Wait. I think it could be a draw. If not, I'm even gonna try to think if I can I would even try to win this if there's
outwit.
anything, but I don't think if you don't make a mistake, but
Yeah.
there's nothing to do, of course. So yeah, this should be a draw, I think.
Yeah, that looks very drawish. Oh, okay, okay, okay,
Not
okay.
rook a6, but rook b7.
Pardon me.
You
Yes, yes. Okay.
guessed it right. So now queen c4. Now we take the knight on f6 and threatening another mate here on
Yeah.
a7, on a6.
But now
So
there's a little check by black now in between, right?
there is a little check
Yeah.
with rook d1,
And out of a
but
sudden, I thought, like, this is scary for white.
it is scary. Yeah, this is why. No, this game is just amazing for many reasons, but also because sometimes there's like only these only precise moves that you have to make, and nothing else wins or nothing else holds. This was actually the best defense. Rook d1 might have still been the way to hold. So queen b6 now to make another checkmate on a5. There's just so many checkmates. I mean, I feel really bad for that king, but there's always something going on. So queen d4, and here I was trying to think. I was trying to like figure out whether this was like what the evaluation of this would be, because it seems, oh, the danger is over, right? And you're completely fine, but I actually don't really know what to do for black in this endgame, because your king is forever on a4. And the question is like,
rook takes f7.
your rook is
bishop
forever there.
e6, and another mate threat.
Right, there is another mate threat. I would maybe even like try some bishop d7 move, maybe take on f7 first. I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm saying if there's if we ever have a chance to do this, like you can never free your rook from, like you can never free your king or rook by a5, because I always have another mate.
Yeah, that's a better
so
move, yeah.
This endgame was pretty interesting. I'm still not sure exactly, because the computers, I think, like if you put it on for a bit, it says it's winning, but I mean it's like winning for white. But I think it's something that you can, it's something that you can suspect, but it's hard to like really know for sure how this game would have unfolded. But I do understand why you wouldn't want to go for this, because it just looks like your king is never joining the game in the end game, and that's usually a big factor. So king a3 is what Veselin played, and now white wins by force. It's not easy to see, but go ahead and find it.
Oh no. Okay, so
you only have a few check ideas, so
yes,
you're gonna have to do all of the checks. You have no choice.
Yeah, I see 4 in total, if I'm correct. So there's the queen to c3, b2, a1, and of course a6.
At this point, you've seen that many sacrifices that you're considering queen c3.
Yes, exactly. Whatever.
You know, anything can happen.
Make it a draw again. Okay, so probably which one was it? I don't think queen a6 is too good, but it is probably queen to b2.
It's not queen to b2, it's actually queen a6.
Damn it.
Because after queen b2, king a4, king a4, queen a1, king b4, I think you run out for a bit. I'm not sure, but this is queen b2. I don't think this is it. Queen a1.
Yeah, you're getting out of there.
Unpleasant. Yeah. Well, we did have something similar, but not quite. So queen a6 is the one. King b4, and I just here you're gonna try to guess the next move, of course. But here the crazy fact that I found is that Topalov actually saw this position when Kasparov sacrificed his rook on d4. Imagine.
Oh my God.
That's like, to me, that's just insane. That's just to understand how really the level to which these players, how deeply they can think, that he actually saw this position when the rook sacrifice happened, but he missed white's next move here, which is why he ended up losing the game. I think that might have been the key thing that he missed. So what do you think is the move here for white? Or you're running out of checks.
Oh no. What was it? I don't remember it. I mean, there's also this rook to d1, which is so uncool. Oh dear. Is it c3 check?
It is c3
Yeah,
check. You
yeah,
found
okay.
it. You found it. So c3, it's well, you were running out of checks, so that was
Yeah.
the first check to look at. And the thing is, it's not possible to take with the queen, I believe, because of something like this. There's definitely a mate there. So in the game, king took, but just to show, this basically leads to probably around the same thing. So it doesn't make too much difference.
Okay.
King c3. Next check is queen a1. Really, really nice check. Also
That
really easy
is,
to miss from afar.
yes.
Um,
And the king is
Other
going.
checks don't work. So
Yes,
that's
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
the cool thing about this, is that these are the only moves that win, like c3, queen a1. And it's really hard to see. So now the king went to d2. The king could not have gone here because he would have eventually been not mated, but the queen just gets lost if you want to avoid mate. So king d2 is what happened in the game. We make another check. Now the king went to d1, and I want you to find the next move. This is one of the other amazing moves
Yeah.
that were historical. So try to guess the next move. You might, I don't know if you remember this, but
Yeah, let me think for a short moment, please.
it is a tough one.
Yes, it was. I remember this was, yeah, very astounding.
It looks like black pretty much escaped, because where are your checks?
Yeah.
So it's not a check. There's no check here. That's the
Oh, wow. It's interesting that, I mean, I know I've replayed it a couple of times and I still don't remember it. It's funny.
Yeah, it's you don't always remember the whole thing. It's like you think you remember the game, but here it's just such a complicated one that that it is pretty hard to remember all of these.
How did that go? Was it bishop f1?
It is bishop f1.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is bishop f1.
At least.
I mean, such a difficult move to find, and
Yeah.
especially see it from far ahead.
It's but only because I remember it was something on the queen side, and yeah, so it probably has to be
No,
that,
but it's just amazing that this bishop was standing here, attacking the king while it was still on b8, and it comes back with
beauty,
a really
absolutely.
big force. And the thing is, the queen can't really retreat. Like if the queen goes anywhere, we're gonna have a mate on e2. And if the queen captures, we're gonna have another mate here on e7.
And what a mate, what a weird mate.
And the queen is blocking, right? It's such a strange this bishop f1, I think, is so difficult to even see, but once again, once you see it, it makes so much sense. So Veselin plays rook d2, and that's the only defensive move that you can have. Yes. And now we have another crazy tactic.
I think it was
not that crazy anymore. After everything we've seen, it's not that crazy.
I think it was it rook d7?
It is rook d7. So you might remember the end already.
A little
it is rook d7. Yeah. So we're not letting the rook capture the queen. Bishop is still not takeable. No. And rook d7, we're forcing the rook to come back and take it. Bishop goes to c4. So now we capture the queen. And the problem is that there's two mates threatened, which are queen c1 and queen e2. So this means that black is not able to move a rook.
Yeah.
So he has to take the bishop, and then we win the rook onto h8. So the game still went on.
Yes, exactly, which is another crazy thing, because
right,
this game
so it's
still
not
went on.
But the the insane thing is that this whole combination would not have worked if the rook hadn't been on h8
Yeah.
at the very end. Like the
Yeah.
fact
Yes.
that it
Yes. Yes.
ends,
Yes.
the fact that it ends in queen h8 is just mind
Pretty
blowing.
mind blowing.
Had
Yeah.
the rook been anywhere else, all of these none of this would have worked. So
How disappointing.
how
This game would have
disappointing.
never ever been like an immortal game.
Yeah.
Was like, yeah,
But
he miscalculated back then. Yeah. Was pretty
mhm.
cool attack, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, the game went on. I don't really think
Yeah,
it's
I think it was. I would think it was even this part. I thought it was still intensive, although not, of course, not as intensive as the whole other part. It's like
it
not
ended here
comparable.
after queen a7. I think it ended.
Yeah,
Nice little tactic that
another
doesn't let black
checkmate.
capture the pawn, and if they can't capture the pawn, then the queen is just gonna
Yeah,
pick everything up. So yeah, we actually took a lot longer on this game than I expected, but I'm not even about it because that I think covers a lot of it anyways.
did. And it was
So
so nice to have this little memory trip again back to this
do you want
absolute
to know your
fantastic game.
score of Guess the Move? I kept track.
So how many moves could I have guessed correctly? You can unshare the screen, by the way.
Okay.
We're
Um,
done with that.
so I think I made you guess 11 moves,
Oh, what?
something like around
I
that.
have the feeling there were 6 moves, which I had to guess. I mean,
I think there were
if I can't
around,
get even that right, I
and
wonder how much
you
score.
guessed. Do you think you passed?
What's the passing line from 11
Like
moves?
50%, let's say.
50%? I think
Yeah.
I passed 50%.
You did pass. You got 8 out of 11, which
Okay.
is pretty good.
Okay. I know this game pretty well, so I'm a bit disappointed. I think if we do this one more time, immediately, right now,
Right
I
now.
might get 9.
No, you're gonna get everything now
Now,
if we do it again. But yeah. Well, there's of course plenty of Gasparov games to look at, but I think this one one
yeah,
of the
it
one of the
has
most
it deserves its time, definitely. And I think to just rush over it would have also been
disrespectful.
a blunder.
Yeah.
So no, that was super nice to get down this memory lane. I hope you guys at home enjoyed it too. How many did you score correct? This is the question. If you want to participate, if you are brave enough to share your score, do so either in the comment section on YouTube. If it's 1 or 0, don't worry. Maybe you didn't know this game. If you don't know this game at all, if it's the first time you've ever seen this game, I wonder how many people would have scored 1 or 2 points even, because yeah, it's freaking difficult. It's freaking amazing, and it's like, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But having all of that said, you had a couple of games prepared, so I would say we take a look at some of the other Kasparov games in one of our other lessons of Svitlana's smart moves. Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. Okay, can't
And
wait.
we can also explore some other world champions.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah,
Always.
it's your smart moves. You have the freedom of doing whatever you want to. Enjoyable, it's always and anyway. So yeah, that's the main part about this. All right, thanks a lot, Svitlana, and see you guys next week. Bye bye.